Hey everyone, Kevin here. At the same time, a lot of us are wondering where our first stimulus check is. A lot of us are wondering, is there going to be a second stimulus? And so in today's video, which is being recorded after Donald Trump's last White House press briefing on April 21st, I'm putting together all of the information that I have regarding the potential for CARES Act 2, aka Phase 4 of the stimulus package. We've just heard that today, Phase 3.5 was passed. Just a quick recap to clarify this. The first stimulus package where we got our first stimulus check, the big one that we all kind of know of, is actually Phase 3. That was the $1,200 check. This last sort of round of PPP funding and that increase in the EIDL money, that's Phase 3.5. Now we're wondering, is there going to be a Phase 4? And what is Phase 4 going to include? Are we going to see more checks? Are we going to get more money? What's going to be in Phase 4? And what do the Democrats think? And what do the Republicans think? Well, that's exactly what this consolidation video is for. So let's hop right into it. We're going to start at the top with what Donald Trump is saying. Before Phase 3.5 was even passed, Donald Trump tweeted, "I urge the Senate and House to pass the PPP." This is Phase 3.5. Then he says, "After I sign this bill, we will begin discussions on our next legislative initiative with fiscal relief to state and local governments for lost revenues, much needed infrastructure investments for bridges, tunnels, broadband, tax incentives for restaurants, entertainment, sports, and payroll tax cuts to increase economic growth." By the way, Donald Trump has been talking and tweeting about these payroll tax cuts since March 31st. So this isn't super news, but let me reiterate his March 31st tweet because it's actually the first time we saw this mention of Phase 4 stimulus, which I'm going to talk more about the checks and what Democrats think and what Republicans think. But let me get this out of the way. Donald Trump on March 31st said, "With interest rates for the United States being at zero, this is the time to do our decades-long awaited infrastructure bill. It should be very big and bold, $2 trillion, and be focused solely on jobs and rebuilding the once great infrastructure of our country. Phase 4, period." Now, when asked for clarification on Trump's version of Phase 4 in his White House press briefing today on the pandemic, Donald Trump mentioned that to him, Phase 4 is going to include mostly some of the things we've already heard here. State aid. Most Republicans and Democrats agree on that, he said. He wants to see bridges, tunnels, schools, roads. He says it's time to forget the Middle East. It's time to spend money on our country. Other countries don't appreciate the money we spend on them. It's time to spend money on the United States. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's roughly what he said. Our jobs he wants our equipment, and wants to expand broadband to farmers and sort of the middle United States. Now that's Donald Trump's update. We don't hear anything about checks from Donald Trump, though he is interested in spending big on jobs and reducing taxes. Let's go on to the Treasury Secretary, and then we'll get into some Congress folks so we can see where information comes up regarding checks and what Democrats and Republicans think. So Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin actually started the press conference today, and he also alluded to a CARES Act 2, essentially, or a Phase 4 stimulus package. He also mentioned a big investment for infrastructure, but he did say it would be too early to tell if this big spending on infrastructure would be given to the states hardest hit or if it would be equally divided. He did, though, give us this sort of cue that it's just way early to tell exactly where the money is going, but they are focusing on talking about it. So this is good. So far, we got Donald Trump going, "Hey, you know what? Money's cheap. Let's borrow $2 more trillion and let's spend it on jobs in America." We got the Treasury Secretary going, "We're not quite sure where we're going to spend it yet, but yep, we're talking about it." This is good. The more people we have on the same page, the more focused everybody's going to be. Now, analysts are predicting at least another $1 trillion bill. We heard Donald Trump talk about a potential $2 trillion bill, but we're looking at potentially at least another $1 trillion bill, which, remember, CARES Act 3 was a $2.2 trillion bill, which gave everybody checks. checks and money. Donald Trump just mentioned another $2 trillion. Analysts are predicting at least one more trillion. So it looks like we're going to be spending some money. But what else do we know? While there does seem to be consensus on spending more money, there is also an apparent consensus that phase 4 might end up being the last. So if we thought any of these previous bills have been difficult to get through, phase 4 might be the last and hardest to get through. Now let's talk about Congress, folks, and those stimulus checks. In the first week of April, Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic Speaker of the House, said she wants to see more checks being released to individuals. Nobody's quite sure yet how, and obviously we have a few proposals on this, but we know that the Democratic leadership is interested in more checks. Also, in the past, when Donald Trump was asked if we should issue more checks if needed, he said he would absolutely consider the idea if it was deemed necessary. So we've got Democrats and Trump kind of thinking, okay, we're gonna do more stimulus, and you know what? More checks could work. We also have letters from congressmen, like this one here that I'm going to put up on screen, that suggests we want to see an inclusion in the next round of stimulus for 17 to 24-year-olds who were excluded from the prior stimulus bill because a lot of them were claimed as dependents. Now, more on Nancy Pelosi. She also says, quote, as soon as it has passed in the House, aka phase 3.5, the one we've already talked about, we will advance CARES 2, which must be transformative and far-reaching. This is good. That's a good sign that Nancy Pelosi, she's already said in the past, first week of April, she said, we want more checks. Now she's saying, hey, let's slam dunk 3.5 and then let's focus on more checks. So that's going to be something for us to pay attention to. She also separately said she supports the idea of at least some additional payments. On top of that, we have this letter on April 9th from a coalition of 62 House representatives, actually 60 representatives and 2 senators, saying that they want, simply put, we need more money in their pockets, and sending monthly payments to workers and families is the fastest and most direct way to address that need. Now is not the time for timid solutions. So we've already got Donald Trump saying, let's spend big. We got the Treasury Secretary going, yeah, we'll spend big. We're not quite sure yet where we're gonna spend it. Then we got Nancy Pelosi going, let's put money in people's pockets. Now we got this big letter of 62 people in the House going, let's put money in people's pockets. I will say though, most of the people on this list are Democrats. And we've got everybody gearing up for CARES Act 2. In fact, we've already been spending a lot of time talking about some of the proposals. There's the Emergency Money for the People's Act, which has 17 co-sponsors in the House. That's that $2,000 per month of stimulus per adult. We've talked about that multiple times. That's one of the proposals in the House right now. That's also different from the other proposal that says, let's just cancel rent and cancel mortgages for folks. That has 8 co-sponsors. That's also in the House, and we've made a separate video on that. So if you want more information on those two, go to the videos I'll link down below. There's also another sort of smaller bill that has 14 co-sponsors in the House that will specifically require any payments of principal or interest on a residential mortgage loan that's deferred through like forbearance from this pandemic. And it basically requires that it's added to the back of the loan. So you don't even have to go through any kind of process or whatever. Just if that passes, it just automatically gets added to the back of the loan term. That was introduced by Bobby Rush. Again, 14 co-sponsors on that. So then we have a proposal from senators that's called the Heroes Fund, and that is considering offering up to a $25,000 pay increase to any essential workers. Basically, that would work by increasing workers' pay by $13 an hour until December 31st, up to a cap of $25K. And if you're not currently working, you might get a $15,000 worker recruitment incentive to go to work. So obviously, it's very, very clear here that the Democrats, the president, and the Treasury Secretary are excited about spending some more money. In fact, it looks like Democratic Minority Leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, told a Fox News on a conference call that there will be a Phase 4 bill, and some top priorities for Senate Democrats are pursuing funding for state and local governments, rental assistance, election integrity, the USPS, and other things. Not quite clear what the other things are, but if we look at, again, Nancy Pelosi or what the other Democrats are doing, I think it's pretty clear the Democrats are pushing for extra money in our pockets here. Well, then we get to Senator Mitch McConnell, who is the Senate Majority Leader, the Republican majority. Now, before we talk about Mitch McConnell, remember, if you want to learn about how to build wealth by investing in real estate, learning how to go from zero to 100,000-aire to 200,000-aire to millionaire, make sure to join me in the programs linked below. I spend a lot of time and effort on these programs, constantly developing them. That way you can learn with lectures at your own pace, and I keep adding content to them. That's in addition to the daily live streams I do when the market is open at 9 a.m. I'd love to see you. The best one to start with. I get a lot of questions on this. A lot of people emailing me, asking me for bundle coupons, and they're wondering, hey, which program should I start with? I really recommend you start with that 0 to Millionaire real estate investing program. And then once you fall in love with that program, which is exactly what most people do, they end up buying like the do-it-yourself rental renovations and property management program so they can increase their cash flow, or the course on money, or the real estate sales one. But really the cornerstone of everything in that link below where you can work with me is that 0 to Millionaire real estate investing, and I'd love to see you in that one. Senate Mitch McConnell says no phase 4 will be discussed until the Senate is back in full session. I believe the Senate won't be back into a full session until May 4th. Which is about 13 days. So we're gonna be about 2 weeks without talk in the Senate on new stimulus, but that could be okay because that just means the House has time to potentially talk about it. Potentially. No guarantees. Who knows? I mean, apparently these people all talk with each other after hours and on weekends and on nights, and they send each other letters and they tweet each other. So I'm sure there'll be enough entertainment for us to pay attention to. Now, after phase 3.5 was passed today, Mitch McConnell spoke with a group of reporters. And he said, look, the current law has not been in effect for even a week yet. The Treasury Department's got a massive, complicated problem here in getting all of this money out rapidly. And the speaker is already talking about phase 4. He's referring to Nancy Pelosi. And then he says, well, we may need a phase 4, but we're not even fully into phase 3 yet. So that's actually not as negative as it could have been. Obviously, he's balancing out Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi on the Democratic side, like, yo, let's get some more cash out to people. Let's go. Yo, Jerome Powell, get that printer moving a little faster. Let's go. We got to get these checks out. Mitch McConnell, hey, hold on. We just approved some money. Before we talk about phase 4, let's actually get the money out. And then let's give it 13 days, and then let's reconvene on May 4th and talk about this. Although, a lot of us could argue that, hey, we don't need more waiting, we need money now. But then again, it's Congress, okay? 13 days for Congress is like a 20-minute nap for a 2-year-old. 13 days is fast for Congress. Now, in that talk with reporters, though, he did bring up that D word, the debt word. He said, quote, let's weigh this very carefully because the future of our country in terms of the amount of debt that we're adding up is a matter of genuine concern, he added. So this is important. We've got that balancing act going on, but the consensus out of all of this, out of everything we've got here sort of reconciled into this one video is it looks like the House, as soon as this 3.5 bill passes, is immediately going to start working on a phase 4. Now, it's quite possible that the House is also not going to return to work until May 4th after 3.5 gets passed, but you can bet there's going to be a lot of debating and negotiating in the meantime between now and then because, well, that's just what they do. They tweet each other, they write letters to each other, and they plan things. So the hope is that within that first week of May, we might actually start seeing some real new phase 4 stimulus plan come together. And so far, it looks like we know Trump, the secretary, and Democrats want to spend big. The Republicans know they're going to have to spend big. Now it's just a matter of waiting to see where that money's going to fall. Obviously, it looks like we're going to see good news for infrastructure, schools, sewers, the EPA, and other things that will improve the condition of the country. And it just now remains to be seen if Democrats are going to be able to push through additional stimulus checks. Now all that's left to do is go into the link down below. Signing up for life insurance takes less than 5 minutes on your phone to get that processed. And of course, make sure to deposit $100 with the stock trading platform Webull so that you can get 2 free stocks valued up to $1,400. Somebody just got a free Facebook stock valued at over $170, so congratulations to them. Folks, we will see you next time, and thank you for watching.